Orcas, also known as killer whales, are brilliant and social marine mammals. These apex predators are notable for their striking black and white coloring and complex vocalizations for communication and hunting. Living in tightly knit family groups called pods, orcas display fascinating and sometimes mysterious behaviors. What drives these majestic creatures to exhibit such diverse and intriguing behaviors? On a sunny afternoon in June 1995, SeaWorld Park in San Diego, California was alive with excitement. Families and tourists flocked to the main attraction, the massive performance tank, eager to witness the awe-inspiring orca show. The show's star was Titan, a majestic and experienced orca who had been performing at the park for over a decade. Titan, known for his impressive size and striking black and white coloring, consistently captivates audiences with his remarkable intelligence and agility. As anticipation builds, the crowd is excited, knowing they are about to witness a spectacular display of one of nature's most magnificent creatures. The park was renowned for its collection of marine animals, featuring dolphins, sea lions, and various fish species. But the orcas were the main draw, with Titan being the most famous. Visitors marveled at the orca's strength and grace, often unaware of the stress these majestic creatures endured in captivity. The crowd was more significant than usual on this particular day, with many families eager to see Titan's performance. The day started like any other for the staff at SeaWorld Park. The trainers were busy preparing for the show, feeding the animals, and ensuring everything was in place. Among them was a seasoned trainer, Alex Carter, who had worked with Titan for years. Alex had noticed some unusual behavior in Titan recently. He seemed more agitated and less responsive to commands. Despite raising concerns with the management, the show was scheduled to go as planned. The investigative journalist Sam Mitchell was also present at the park that day, working on a piece about the treatment of marine animals in captivity. Sam had been following the story for months, uncovering disturbing information about the animals' conditions and the neglect of their welfare. Little did Sam know that this day would provide the most shocking material for his story. As the audience settled into their seats, the announcer introduced the show. The music blared through the speakers and the trainers took their positions. Titan was released into the performance tank, his massive body gliding through the water quickly. As he made his grand entrance, the crowd erupted in applause, leaping out of the water and splashing the front rows. For a moment it seemed like any other show, filled with awe and excitement. However, underneath the surface, Titan was not himself. The signs of distress that Alex had noticed were becoming more apparent. Erratic movements and uncharacteristic aggression replaced Titan's usual enthusiasm. The trainers tried to maintain control, but it was clear that something was wrong. The tension in the air was palpable, but the show continued, with the audience oblivious to the brewing storm. The moment of horror came suddenly and without warning. As Titan performed a high jump, he landed with a forceful splash. Still, instead of continuing his routine, he turned towards the trainer platform with alarming speed. In seconds, Titan's behavior escalated into a violent frenzy. He lunged at the trainers, his powerful jaws snapping shut with terrifying force. The water turned red as screams filled the air, and chaos erupted in the stands. 7 people, including trainers and audience members, were killed within 3 minutes. Titan's powerful body thrashed in the water, creating waves that added to the unrest. The once mesmerizing performance tank became a scene of carnage, with people scrambling to safety and parents shielding their children from the horror unfolding before their eyes. The park staff rushed to intervene, but the sheer power of the distressed orca made it impossible to control the situation. Amidst the chaos, Alex Carter managed to reach a phone and call for emergency services. Meanwhile, Sam Mitchell captured the scene on his camera, his journalistic instincts taking over. The footage would later become crucial evidence in the investigation that followed. The authorities arrived swiftly, but the damage was done by the time they subdued Titan and evacuated the area. The park was closed immediately, and an investigation was launched into the incident. In the days following the attack, the truth about Titan's condition began to surface. Whistleblower accounts and internal documents revealed that Titan had been exhibiting signs of severe stress and agitation for weeks. Trainers had reported his erratic behavior, but their concerns were dismissed by the management, who prioritized the lucrative performances over the well-being of the animals. The investigation also uncovered that Titan had been subjected to harsh training methods and inadequate living conditions, contributing to his deteriorating mental state. Sam Mitchell's investigative piece exposed SeaWorld Park's negligence and inhumane practices. The article sparked outrage and led to a public outcry for stricter regulations on the captivity of marine animals. Alex Carter, devastated by the loss of his colleagues and the preventable tragedy, became a vocal advocate for animal rights. Alex and Sam worked tirelessly to push for legislative changes, ensuring that no other animal or human would suffer the same fate. The aftermath of the attack led to significant changes in the industry. SeaWorld Park faced numerous lawsuits and was forced to reevaluate its practices. The incident became a turning point, raising awareness about the ethical implications of keeping intelligent and social animals like orcas in captivity. Stricter regulations were implemented, and many marine parks began to phase out their orca shows, opting for more humane and educational programs. The tragedy of June 1995 served as a grim reminder of the dire consequences of neglecting the welfare of animals in captivity. Once the star attraction Titan, who had delighted and mesmerized audiences for years, became an unexpected symbol of the urgent need for change. His violent outburst and the resulting loss of life underscored the deep psychological and physical toll that captivity can inflict on these majestic creatures. Titan's story became a powerful catalyst for advocacy, emphasizing the importance of respecting and protecting all marine animals. It sparked widespread discussions about the ethics of keeping such intelligent and social beings confined for entertainment purposes. This tragic event advocated for a future where marine animals are treated with the dignity and care they deserve, promoting conservation efforts and the development of sanctuaries that better replicate their natural habitats. The legacy of Titan's tragedy continues to inspire a movement towards more humane and respectful treatment of all creatures, fostering a deeper understanding and appreciation for the intricate lives of marine mammals. In August 1998, the small fishing village of Ketchikan, Alaska, was bustling with its usual activities. Nestled between towering pine-covered mountains and the North Pacific Ocean, this close-knit community relied heavily on the abundant marine life surrounding them. The villagers' livelihoods were deeply intertwined with the sea, particularly the rich stocks of salmon and halibut that swam in the cold waters. Boats filled the harbor, their crews preparing for another day of hard work. Fishermen meticulously checked nets, fine-tuned engines, and stowed supplies, ready for the day's catch. The scent of salt water and fish mingled in the air as seagulls circled overhead, their cries blending with the sounds of maritime life. Among the fishermen was Thomas Gray, a seasoned veteran. Thomas had been fishing these waters for over 30 years and was well respected by everyone in Ketchikan. His boat, the Sea Hawk, was a common sight, known for its reliability. On this particular day, Thomas was joined by his longtime friend and crew member, Jake Martin. The weather was clear, and the sea seemed calm, promising a fruitful day. In recent weeks, however, a shadow had been cast over Ketchikan. Several fishermen had gone missing under mysterious circumstances. Boats were found adrift, but their crews were nowhere to be seen. The village was on edge, rumors spreading about what might be causing these disappearances. Some whispered about rogue waves or sudden storms, while others spoke of something more sinister beneath the waves. Not far from the village, Dr. Emma Carter, a marine biologist, was deeply engrossed in her research. Emma had been studying the local orca population for several years. Known for their striking black and white coloring, these orcas were admired for their intelligence and complex social structures. Recently, however, Emma had noticed troubling changes in their behavior. The orcas seemed more aggressive and were venturing closer to fishing boats than ever before. Emma and Thomas had known each other for years. Despite their different backgrounds, they shared a mutual respect and concern for the sea. Emma had discussed her findings with Thomas, who shared the stories of the missing fishermen. They both suspected the orcas might be involved. They were driven to desperation by dwindling food sources due to overfishing and environmental changes. Thomas and Jake set out early on this day, quickly navigating the familiar waters. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting a golden glow over the sea. As they cast their nets and waited for the first catch, they couldn't shake the unease over the village. The sea was calm, but something ominous lurked beneath the surface. Thomas and Jake noticed a pod of orcas following their boat as the morning turned into afternoon. Orcas occasionally followed boats, but this was different. The orcas circled the Sea Hawk closely, their dorsal fins slicing through the water with alarming speed. The fishermen exchanged worried glances but continued their work, hoping the orcas would lose interest. The tension on the boat was palpable as the orcas' behavior became increasingly aggressive. They began ramming the ship without warning, their powerful bodies causing it to rock dangerously. Panic set in as Thomas and Jake struggled to maintain control. The orcas' aggression was unlike anything they had ever seen. In a matter of minutes, the Sea Hawk was overwhelmed. The boat capsized, throwing the fishermen into the cold, unforgiving waters. Thomas and Jake fought to stay afloat, but the orcas continued their assault. One by one, the men disappeared beneath the waves, pulled under by the relentless predators. The calm sea was now a frenzy of thrashing bodies and churning water. Despite his years of experience and strength, Thomas was powerless against the onslaught. The orcas' desperation and hunger had turned them into ruthless hunters, driven by an instinct to survive. News of the disaster spread quickly through Ketchikan. The villagers were in shock, struggling to comprehend the sudden loss of their fellow fishermen. Hearing the news, Emma immediately connected the attack to the troubling behavior she had observed. She knew that this was not a random act of violence, but a symptom of a deeper issue. The orcas were reacting to the depletion of their food sources due to overfishing and environmental changes. Determined to find answers, Emma teamed up with the remaining fishermen and local authorities to investigate. They discovered that the orcas' primary food sources had been severely diminished, forcing them to adopt extreme measures to survive. The investigation revealed a stark reality. The balance between human activity and marine life had been disrupted, leading to tragic consequences. Emma and the villagers began to piece together the events leading up to the disappearances. They interviewed survivors and analyzed the patterns of the attacks. It became clear that the orcas were not attacking out of malice, but out of sheer desperation. The fishermen's boats had become targets because they represented a potential food source. The relentless pursuit of profit shattered the once harmonious relationship between the villagers and the sea. In the wake of the tragedy, Ketchikan's community rallied together. Emma's findings sparked a movement to address the root causes of the orcas' aggression. Efforts were made to implement sustainable fishing practices, reducing the strain on the marine ecosystem. The villagers worked to restore the balance, ensuring that humans and aquatic life could coexist without further conflict. Memorials were held for the lost fishermen, and the Sea Hawk story became a cautionary tale. The villagers of Ketchikan, once solely focused on their livelihood, now understood the importance of preserving the delicate balance of their environment. Emma continued her research, advocating for policies that protected marine life and promoted sustainable fishing practices. In the summer of 2000, the waters off the coast of British Columbia, Canada, were calm and clear. This day marked a significant event for marine life enthusiasts and animal rights activists. An orca named Freedom was being released back into the wild after spending most of her life in captivity at a controversial marine park. The campaign for her release had been long and arduous, but the efforts of many dedicated individuals had finally paid off. Freedom was captured as a calf and had spent over 2 decades performing in shows, confined to a small tank. The marine park had been criticized for treating marine animals, and Freedom had become a symbol of the fight against animal captivity. The decision to release her was met with both hope and concern. While her freedom was a victory, her ability to adapt to life in the ocean was uncertain. The release occurred near the southern coast of British Columbia, an area known for its rich marine biodiversity. The region was home to various species of fish, seals, and notably wild orcas. These orcas lived in complex social structures, hunting together and communicating through clicks and whistles. This would be a new and challenging environment for Freedom, who had been isolated from her kind for so long. Dr. Olivia Scott, a marine scientist, was at the forefront of this project. Olivia had dedicated her career to studying marine mammals and had been deeply involved in the campaign to free Freedom. On this day, she was aboard a research vessel preparing to monitor Freedom's transition. The team had fitted Freedom with a tracking device to observe her movements and behavior as she re-entered the ocean. As the crew prepared for the release, emotions were running high. Freedom was lowered into the water from a specially designed cradle. She hesitated momentarily, unsure of the vast expanse before her. Then, with a mighty sweep of her tail, she swam into the open sea. The crew watched with excitement and apprehension as Freedom disappeared into the deep blue. The first few days were critical. Olivia and her team followed Freedom closely, noting her interactions with the environment. Initially, Freedom seemed disoriented. She struggled to hunt and often approached the boat, possibly seeking the familiar presence of humans. Olivia knew this was just the beginning of a long journey for Freedom. The orca needed to relearn how to be wild, which required patience and support. Meanwhile, back on shore, activists and supporters worldwide celebrated the success of Freedom's release. News outlets covered the story extensively, highlighting the event's importance. However, the challenges that lay ahead were still visible to everyone. The ultimate goal was not just Freedom's survival, but her ability to thrive in her natural habitat. As weeks turned into months, Freedom's journey in the wild continued. Dr. Olivia Scott and her team monitored her daily, gathering data and adjusting their strategies as needed. They provided supplemental feeding to ease her transition and tried to encourage her to interact with wild orcas. The process was slow, but minor signs of progress gave them hope. Freedom faced numerous challenges. She struggled with hunting, often failing to catch enough food. Her social skills were rusty, and her attempts to communicate with wild orcas were initially met with indifference or aggression. Olivia knew that reintegrating Freedom into the wild pod was crucial for survival. She needed to learn the complex social behaviors and hunting techniques that came naturally to wild orcas. One day, Olivia observed a breakthrough. Freedom was seen swimming with a small pod of wild orcas. This was a significant step forward. The pod seemed to accept her presence, and Freedom mimicked their behavior. She watched them hunt, learning the techniques she had lost during her years in captivity. For Olivia and her team, this moment was a testament to Freedom's resilience and adaptability. However, the journey was far from over. Freedom's integration into the wild pod was a gradual process. There were setbacks, and not all interactions were positive. At times, Freedom seemed to revert to her old habits, approaching boats and relying on supplemental feeding. Olivia remained vigilant, understanding that each setback was part of the learning curve. The monitoring continued, with the team tracking Freedom's movements and interactions. They recorded her vocalizations, noting changes and improvements in her communication skills. Over time, Freedom began relying less on human assistance and more on her abilities. She caught fish more consistently and participated in the pod's social activities. The significance of Freedom's journey extended beyond her individual story. Her progress highlighted the broader issues of marine animal captivity and the importance of proper rehabilitation. Olivia and her team's data contributed to the growing research on reintroducing captive orcas to the wild. It provided valuable insights into the challenges and necessary steps for successful reintegration. Freedom's story inspired further efforts to release and rehabilitate captive marine animals in the following years. Dr. Olivia Scott continued her work, advocating for better conservation practices and protecting aquatic habitats. The collaboration between scientists, activists, and the public demonstrated the power of collective action in driving change. Freedom's return to the ocean was a symbol of hope and resilience. Despite the many obstacles, she gradually adapted to her natural environment. The bond between Freedom and the wild orcas grew more robust, and she found her place within the pod. Olivia and her team watched with pride and relief as Freedom thrived in the wild, free from the confines of captivity. The journey of Freedom and the dedication of those who fought for her release underscored the importance of compassion and perseverance in conservation efforts. Freedom's release was not just a victory for one orca, but a step towards a future where marine animals are respected and protected in their natural habitats. The lessons learned from her story continue to guide and inspire conservation efforts worldwide. In the spring of 2002, the remote coastal town of Port Henry in Canada was a place where the rhythms of life were tied to the sea. Located on the edge of British Columbia, the town's economy depended heavily on fishing. The waters around Port Henry were known for their abundance of salmon and halibut, drawing fishermen from near and far. The town was small, with tight-knit families who had lived there for generations. The local docks were always busy with boats coming and going, their nets heavy with the day's catch. Among the fishermen was John Fisher, a seasoned mariner who had spent his entire life on the water. John's Wave Rider boat was well known in Port Henry. John and his crew prepared for another fishing trip on this particular day. The morning was clear and the sea calm, promising a good catch. In recent weeks, however, the peace of Port Henry had been shattered by a series of unusual events. Fishing boats returned to the docks with damage inflicted by what appeared to be orca attacks. The town was abuzz with speculation and fear. Orcas, known as killer whales, were familiar in these waters. They were majestic creatures known for their striking black and white coloring and complex social structures. Yet attacks on boats were unheard of. On this day, the tension in the air was palpable as John and his crew set out to sea. The sun was rising, casting a golden glow on the water. As they sailed, they kept a wary eye for any signs of the orcas. The fishermen exchanged stories of recent encounters, each more alarming than the last. Despite the unease, they continued their work, hoping the day would pass without incident. Meanwhile, in the town's modest research facility, Dr. Laura Green, a marine ecologist, was deeply concerned. Laura had been studying the local orca population for years. She had noticed changes in their behavior but couldn't pinpoint the cause. The recent attacks had prompted her to investigate further. She believed something was disrupting the orcas' natural patterns, driving them to aggression. Laura had spent the morning analyzing data and reviewing reports from the fishermen. She noted that the attacks coincided with the start of an underwater mining operation near the coast. The mining activities aimed at extracting valuable minerals from the seabed began a few months earlier. The noise and disruption caused by the mining coincide with the changes in the orca's behavior. As John and his crew worked, they couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Suddenly, the water's surface erupted and a large orca emerged, its powerful body striking the side of the boat. The impact threw the men off balance, sending equipment and catch spilling across the deck. The orca circled back, its dorsal fin cutting through the water like a knife. Fear gripped the crew as they tried to fend off the massive predator. The attack was swift and brutal. The orca rammed the Wave Rider repeatedly, its aggression relentless. John and his crew fought to keep the boat from capsizing, but the damage was severe. The orca's powerful jaws snapped at the hull, splintering wood and causing water to flood the deck. Panic set in as the men struggled to stay afloat. The once calm sea was now a scene of chaos and fear. John managed to send a distress signal before the water overtook the boat. The orca's attack had left the Wave Rider crippled and sinking. Rescue boats arrived just in time to save John and his crew. But the incident shocked the town. The news of the attack spread quickly, heightening the urgency to discover what drove the orcas to such extremes. Dr. Laura Green spent little time presenting her findings to the town's leaders. She explained that the underwater mining operation was likely causing significant noise pollution, disrupting the orca's communication and migration patterns. The constant noise and vibrations from the mining equipment drove the orcas to aggression as they struggled to adapt to the changes in their environment. Laura urged the town's leaders to halt the mining project and consider its long-term impact on the marine ecosystem. She proposed a campaign to raise awareness about the issue and gather support from environmental organizations. The town's mayor, Richard Nelson, listened intently. He understood the fishing industry's importance to Port Henry and recognized the need to protect the natural environment. Laura and Mayor Nelson spearheaded a campaign to halt the mining project. They organized community meetings to educate residents about the impact of noise pollution on marine life. The town rallied behind them, and the campaign gained momentum. They contacted environmental groups, scientists, and government officials to seek support for their cause. The mining company, initially resistant, faced increasing pressure from the public and media. Reports of the orca attacks and the campaign to protect their habitat drew national attention. The issue became a focal point of environmental discussions. highlighting the need for sustainable practices and the protection of marine life. Laura continued her research as the campaign grew, documenting the orca's behavior and gathering evidence of the mining operation's impact. Her work provided crucial data that strengthened their case. The town's efforts culminated in a petition to the government demanding the suspension of the mining activities and a thorough environmental assessment. After months of relentless campaigning, their efforts paid off. The government ordered a temporary halt to the mining operation pending a full review of its environmental impact. The news was met with relief and celebration in Port Henry. The orca attacks subsided, and the waters around the town began to return to a semblance of normalcy. The victory was bittersweet. While the immediate threat had been averted, the town knew the fight for environmental protection was ongoing. Dr. Laura Green continued her research, advocating for policies safeguarding marine habitats and promoting sustainable practices. The story of Port Henry became a powerful example of how a community could come together to protect its natural resources. The events of 2002 left a lasting impact on Port Henry. The town's economy gradually recovered, and the orcas returned to standard patterns. The collaboration between the townspeople, scientists, and environmentalists demonstrated the importance of working together for a common cause. The lessons learned from this struggle served as a reminder of the delicate balance between human activity and the natural world. In the winter of 2004, the Arctic waters off the coast of Norway were a breathtaking landscape of ice and ocean. This was the setting for the documentary crew led by marine biologist Dr. Emily Harper and renowned filmmaker Mark Reynolds. They had come to document the life of Luna, a well-known orca, to raise awareness about the impacts of climate change on marine life. Luna was a magnificent orca, easily recognized by a distinctive notch in her dorsal fin. Scientists had studied her for years, and she was known for her intelligence and complex social interactions. The documentary aimed to follow Luna's journey through the shrinking ice caps and changing sea temperatures, capturing the challenges and impacts of these changes on her life and the marine ecosystem. The crew's base was a small research vessel anchored in the frigid waters. Each day began early, with the sun barely cresting the horizon, casting a golden light over the icy expanse. On this particular day, Emily and Mark were preparing their equipment, hopeful for a productive day of filming. The cold was biting, but the crew's spirits were high, driven by the importance of their mission. Luna was spotted near the ice's edge, moving gracefully through the water. The crew followed her, capturing footage of her interactions with other marine species. They observed her hunting techniques and social behaviors, noting how the changing environment affected her daily life. The shrinking ice caps forced Luna and her pod to travel further and work harder to find food, a stark example of the direct impacts of climate change. Throughout the day, the crew witnessed Luna encountering various challenges. She navigated through ice floes, sometimes struggling to find open water. Her interactions with seals and other prey were also more aggressive, reflecting the food scarcity and the altered landscape. Emily explained to the crew that these behaviors were signs of stress and adaptation, crucial for understanding the broader implications of climate change on marine life. As the sun set, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange, the crew returned to their vessel to review the day's footage. They were struck by the beauty and tragedy of Luna's struggle. The images of Luna against the backdrop of the melting ice were powerful and moving, reinforcing the urgency of their project. The team felt a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that their work could inspire change and raise awareness on a global scale. Back in their makeshift studio on the ship, Emily and Mark worked late into the night piecing together the narrative of Luna's journey. They were determined to create a documentary to educate, evoke deep emotions, and drive action. The stories and data they gathered would form a compelling narrative about the impacts of climate change, seen through the eyes of one remarkable orca. As weeks turned into months, the crew continued to follow Luna, documenting her every move. The Arctic winter was harsh and unforgiving, but the team's dedication never wavered. They captured scenes of Luna breaking through ice to breathe, teaching her young pod members essential survival skills and navigating the increasingly treacherous waters. The footage was both stunning and heartbreaking, showcasing the resilience of these incredible creatures in the face of adversity. On one particularly harrowing day, the crew witnessed a dramatic encounter. Luna and her pod were hunting seals near the edge of a melting ice floe. Suddenly, a giant shark appeared, drawn by the commotion. The shark lunged at Luna, its teeth gnashing as it aimed for a crippling blow. Luna managed to evade the initial attack, but the shark was persistent, circling back for another strike. The water churned as Luna and the shark clashed, each trying to gain the upper hand. The crew watched in tense silence, capturing every moment. Luna's pod joined the fray, using their strength and coordination to protect her. The battle was fierce, with Luna sustaining several injuries. Finally, the pod managed to drive the shark away, but the victory was bittersweet. Luna was left battered and bleeding, a stark reminder of the harsh realities of life in the wild. The crew's footage of the attack was raw and intense, showcasing the brutal side of nature. Emily used this moment to highlight the additional stressors climate change imposed on marine life. The shrinking ice caps disrupted migration patterns and increased the frequency of dangerous encounters as animals were forced into closer proximity while searching for food. As Luna recovered from her injuries, the crew continued to follow her, documenting her slow but determined return to health. Luna's resilience became a central theme of the documentary, symbolizing hope and the enduring spirit of the natural world. The footage of her healing and adapting to her changing environment resonated deeply with the team. It would later move audiences around the world. The release of the Luna Chronicles was met with widespread acclaim. The documentary's powerful imagery and compelling narrative captured the public's attention, sparking conversations about climate change and its impact on marine life. Luna's story symbolized the urgent need for more robust environmental protection policies. International organizations and governments took notice. Inspired by the documentary, new initiatives were launched to reduce carbon emissions, protect marine habitats, and support research on climate change adaptation. Emily and Mark were invited to speak at conferences and forums, sharing their experiences and advocating for change. Their work raised awareness and ignited a global movement for more robust environmental protection. Luna continued to thrive in the Arctic waters, her journey a testament to nature's strength and resilience. The documentary crew stayed in touch with Emily, providing updates on Luna and her pod. Each update brought stories of Luna's playful antics and deep bonds with her pod members, captivating the world. As Luna's story unfolded, it reminded us of the interconnectedness of all life and our collective responsibility to protect the planet. Her journey sparked conversations about conservation and the need to preserve delicate ecosystems. Luna became a symbol of hope and resilience, inspiring a renewed commitment to environmental stewardship and showing that every effort to protect nature makes a difference. In the summer of 2006, off the coast of Washington State, the waters of Puget Sound were teeming with life. This place was known for its rich biodiversity and stunning natural beauty. Among the many marine creatures that called this area home were orcas, or killer whales, known for their striking black and white appearance and complex social behaviors. These orcas were beloved by locals and scientists alike, drawing visitors from all over the world. The sun shone brightly on this particular day and the sea was calm. A young and passionate marine biologist, Dr. Sarah Collins, was preparing for a significant research day. Sarah had recently developed a groundbreaking method to study orca communication patterns, hoping to understand their needs and behaviors better. She was excited to test her new equipment, a series of underwater microphones and data analysis software designed to capture and decode orca sounds. Sarah had always been fascinated by orcas. Growing up in a coastal town, she watched them from the shore for countless hours. This fascination turned into a career as she pursued a degree in marine biology and dedicated herself to studying these majestic creatures. Her goal was to use her research to improve conservation strategies and protect orca habitats. As Sarah and her team set out on their research vessel, they spotted a pod of orcas near the shore. She immediately deployed the microphones into the water, eager to capture the sounds of the orcas communicating. The air was filled with anticipation as the team listened through their headphones. The sounds they heard were unlike anything they had ever experienced. Complex, melodic, and full of emotion. Sarah collected valuable data on the orcas' communication patterns throughout the day. She noted how the sounds varied depending on the orcas' activities, such as hunting, socializing, or caring for their young. Each vocalization told a story, revealing the pod's intricate social bonds and sophisticated communication methods. Sarah was thrilled with the results, knowing this data would be crucial for her research. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the water, Sarah and her team returned to their lab to analyze the data. They worked late into the night, deciphering the patterns and meanings behind the orca sounds. The excitement was palpable as they realized they were on the brink of a significant breakthrough. Sarah knew this research could have far-reaching implications for orca conservation and protection efforts. The next day, Sarah received alarming news. A significant oil spill had occurred nearby, threatening a critical orca habitat. The spill had spread rapidly, contaminating the water and endangering the marine life in the area. Sarah's heart sank as she thought about the orcas she had studied the day before. She knew that the spill could have devastating effects on the pod and their environment. Determined to help, Sarah quickly mobilized her team and contacted local authorities and rescue organizations. She offered her research and expertise, knowing that her data on orca communication patterns could be invaluable in tracking the affected pod and guiding rescue efforts. The response was immediate, with rescue teams eager to use any available resources to mitigate the disaster's impact. This time, Sarah and her team returned to the waters with urgency and purpose. They deployed their microphones once again, listening for the sounds of the orcas. The once clear and vibrant waters were now dark and tainted with oil, making the task even more challenging. However, Sarah's determination never wavered. She knew that the orcas were depending on her. As they navigated the contaminated waters, they picked up faint sounds of the orcas. The pod was moving erratically, clearly distressed by the presence of the oil. Sarah used her data to track their movements, providing real-time updates to the rescue teams. Her research allowed them to understand the orcas' behavior and predict their next moves, making the rescue efforts more efficient and effective. The rescue teams worked tirelessly, using boats and specialized equipment to clean the oil and provide medical care to the affected orcas. Sarah's data was a lifeline, guiding the teams to the most critical areas and helping them respond quickly to the orcas' needs. The collaboration between scientists, rescuers, and local authorities was a testament to the power of collective action in the face of environmental disaster. As the days passed, the rescue efforts began to show positive results. The oil spill was contained, and the affected orcas received care. Sarah's research played a crucial role in the operation's success, highlighting the critical importance of scientific research in environmental disaster response. Her work demonstrated how understanding orca communication patterns could aid their protection and conservation. The aftermath of the spill led to significant advancements in marine conservation strategies. Sarah's findings were published in scientific journals, garnering international attention and support. Her research inspired new policies and regulations to prevent future oil spills and protect marine habitats. Governments and organizations worldwide recognize the importance of investing in scientific research to safeguard the environment. Back in her lab, Sarah continued her work with renewed determination. The experience reinforced her belief in the power of science to drive change and protect the natural world. She knew there was still much to learn about orcas and their communication, and she was committed to uncovering the mysteries of these incredible creatures.